You're watching the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. So we are recording. Hello, John. How are you, my friend?
Michael, how you doing, man? What's up?
I am doing fantastic. And just to let everybody know, we were having a little audio issues and we got it all figured out. That's the great thing about doing a show like this. There's always some type of audio problem or video problem or tech problem, but we got it sorted out. And I'm so happy that you're on. We were talking about this, was it last year when I finished season 1? So now you're in season 2. Thank you for joining me. And I'm really pumped about it because we haven't had really an opportunity to really discuss our journey because we have very similar, I'd say very parallel journeys in our paths and what we did. And I was trying to figure out, like, I think I've known you for 15 years. It's got to be 15 years.
Good while, yeah. Good while.
Yeah, at least that. And I was thinking that I still remember the first time I met you was in Carolyn Mullner's class. We did that psychic development class. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. I always remember when I first we were all sitting in that, development circle, and I looked over at you and I go, this guy's look pretty cool. You didn't seem like the regular guys, even back then I had a good bullshit filter and I knew some of the people in the class, I just I don't resonate. But this guy, I think I could resonate with this guy.
What can I tell you? On that note, it's interesting. I was thinking, I find it's interesting, Mike, and tell me how you feel about this. So you're going along in your life, all of a sudden, let's use the word you awaken, because that's what people use these days. So you're waking up and then they kind of erase everything from when they were born to when they actually wake up, and they kind of discard it. And I see that as like the footing of your personality and where you've come from. And so these are the building blocks of who you are. But I think there's a fair mistake there, because I do feel you need that as a good foundation, because it's very easy to get whimsical. And then my life started when this happened. When you back engineer it, you realized that you were kind of prompted prior to that. It's all a journey, not just when you wake up. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I 100% that. And I just had a conversation yesterday when I did another podcast, and we talked about spiritual bypass and, people just kind of living in the woo woo and not using any practicality of it, and not bringing the woo woo back in and using it on a daily basis. And I think that was a real big problem I find right now. And it's a form of escapism in some ways. What do you think about that?
I think it's kind of your alter ego.
Yeah.
I think in some ways they develop an alter ego. I think I look at it as like, on a bike, you've got lots of gears on, and it's okay to swap gears and go, okay, I'm in this mode because I'm in this environment and this is so on and so forth. And I mean, you have to figure that in life, you're born with one gear, right? And then as you go through life, through adversities, etc., you develop gears. And then when you see things happen in your life, you can pop into that gear so you can adjust to whatever vibration that is. But yeah, I don't think people do themselves a lot of justice when they negate all of that information that they had prior to waking up.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's really important to understand who you are and to embrace it, even the good stuff with the muck. Like, we all have muck and we all have shit, and
Right.
we have to go journey through it. So I always wanted to ask you, and I don't think I've ever, all the years I've known you, I don't think we ever talked about your journey. Like, when did it really start for you? Like, when did you, like everybody else, we all had our regular jobs and we're just kind of going through life. And then when did it really kind of like pop for you? And like, was there a certain time, or did you have a certain incident that just kind of just like, okay, something's going on here. I'm feeling a little bit different. I don't know. Was it like a huge awakening, or was it more subtle?
Well, I would say that, for me, I never really fit in. They just never did. I think that's quite common, to be honest. Yeah, you got it. So you just don't fit in, right? It's like trying to get a square in a circle. It's just not happening. And then it's a hard path, because then when you're younger, you're constantly reflecting on yourself, thinking, what's wrong with me and this whole thing, and self-deprivation. You go through all of this kind of stuff because you just don't fit in. And then I remember being next to whoever, it doesn't matter who it was. And my hands used to warm up. They just used to warm, like very warm hands. And I just didn't even say it as a kid because I just thought, oh, it's just normal. It's not worth a conversation. I just didn't even think. And it would happen periodically, and I didn't think too much about it. Anyway, so, a couple of small little things would show themselves that, it was inconclusive, let's say. But when we moved into the house in 2005, that's when I was thrown in the deep end, of course. So I was in North, it was like, that was when the seal broke, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bought a house 2005, North Pickering. And it was extremely active, very, very active. Like, what could I tell you about it? It had meridian lines running through ley lines running through the front door. I don't know if you remember this. And there was a cross section, there was a vortex there. And that's why it was so active. I mean like extremely active. Some of it was positive, some of it was negative. It was just, it's like this microphone. It's like, I see a portal as, if I swear down this microphone, you can't blame the microphone. It's just a microphone. It's just amplification tool. The microphone just does what it does. So so much going on there. So that's when it really happened. And it was nice because, my wife now, Gordana, and at least you got someone to go, like, you'd say, am I going crazy? Did you see that? Or did you hear that? And it was pretty obvious stuff. And it was like, oh my God. And then we had people come in and they cleaned the house. And it's funny the way it works, because I was never one to even delve into any of this stuff. Most of my life at that point was just, that's weird stuff. There's nothing to it. It's just for weird people. And I got a rude awakening, and it's stuff. And you couldn't explain this to anyone. It's the type of information that you have to experience it to kind of let me say, debunk the human program.
Yeah.
Of what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of people that will open up to about it, and that was one of the things I struggled with it. Like, who do you talk to? And even I tried to reach out to other psychics and things like that, and they're just like, no, you just got to come for a reading. You got to come for a reading. And I was trying to find, there was like no courses, no nothing. Like I couldn't find anything. And who do you talk about it? Like, oh, I'm talking to dead people. Oh, I'm seeing this. Like, it's not like you're doing a bad acid trip or something. It's just like, you're trying to figure things out, and you're trying to, you're seeing stuff, you're feeling stuff. You don't know where it's, what's happening. So I remember that house. Yeah. That house was a little bit of a freak show. I remember that. I remember going in that first time, and I was like, God damn, what the hell's going on in this house?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and it was interesting because it was like you were fermenting in knowledge, because you were sleeping there and you were eating there and you were living with it. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking, hey, look, we're paying a mortgage, so you can get out, pal. And it was like I said, it was very, very active. I actually, who came through there was Carolyn Molnar, one of the classes that we went to.
No, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what happened? I digress to Carolyn Molnar in just a second.
Sure.
But I remember she came with a class, and it was so active. I phoned her, and what had happened, interestingly enough, I did work on someone, and they said, I want you to teach me some stuff. And I said, look, man, I says, I'm not a teacher. I do what I do, but I don't teach. I'm not a good teacher. So I said, phone Carolyn Molnar. She is an incredible lady and she's a great teacher. Anyway, so he went to see her, and then he phoned me back. And for whatever reason, through conversation, it ended up that at the end of the year, the graduation, they came to my house because it was so active, right? So the whole class came to the house, and we had tea and biscuits, and we sat down and we're chatting. It was nice to see Carolyn. And there was like maybe anywhere between 8 and 12 students at the end of the class. And we were walking through, and it was really, really interesting, because at this point, these were really well-developed students from what I could see. And, like the room would go cold, or you would smell hay, or they'd all tune in and say, I saw that dog. And they'd all have their own position but when you put all of the pieces together, they were very close to being 80-85% bang on.
Wow.
It's really interesting. Yeah, no, it was cool. It's cool.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that house. Yeah, when you mentioned it, I was like, it
Oh,
just kind of
man.
brought back some of those memories and just the feelings in that house. But I really didn't know that you had people come in and take a look at it, because it was like that. You could just feel the energy. But the thing is, too, I mean, I think it was also between you and your wife, Gordana, you guys really balanced the energy out, which I found. You guys are very, very grounded. Like your wife is like super grounded. Like she's got like, she has a very good strength about her, and she's got that energy, just grounds everything. And I know you're like me, we're a little bit lighter, and we can kind of pick up a little more sensitive to that. But it was always a nice balance when I went into the house. So it wasn't like it walked in as like wham. But I still remember that house. Yeah, geez, that was so crazy.
Yeah, you know, it is interesting because so anyway, we buys the house, and
Yeah.
we took pictures prior to taking possession of the house. How ironic is that? God. Thinking about it now, that's hilarious. Anyway,
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. Anyway,
Yeah.
and then there was orbs all over the house. And then we're looking, what is this? So that was it was just the beginning, even before we moved in. And then, things are moving. Just I could go on and on about the experiences that we had there, but let's just more so look at it as content. And I had mediums there. I had people to clean the house, and that within itself is an incredible catalyst to kind of like pressing the reset button, or like I said earlier, is hacking the human program.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, that's really what we're doing now. I think we're hacking the limitations.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I think so too. I think we are. I think for a lot of us, we're just trying to find an easier way of just being human. Which just because some days, being human sucks, and we all been there. We've all had our traumas, our issues, and things like that. And we're just wanting a kind of a quick solution. I think a lot of people are trying to kind of hack it, but unfortunately, there's no way of really hacking it. I mean, you got to do the work. I mean, you got to do the work around it, whether it's small or large or anything else that you have to do. It's really about the work. Did you find when you were living in the house, that's when your healing abilities kind of went from like here to like to 100?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, I remember, what's her name? Oh, geez. The name escapes me now. He wrote a book. I can't think of his name. I'll tell you another time. I'm sorry. Anyway, she came to me and she said, you had coins, and they were put on. She said what she told me was I was in Rome at some point in time, and I had coins on the palms of my hands, and they were wrapped so I couldn't heal. Okay. This is what she told me, and then she said she took them off, and I was taking it with sort of a pinch of salt. Don't forget, I mean, I'd seen a lot at this point, but I'm going, when you're talking about yourself, I go, oh, that's really nice in the back of your head, and because you do. I mean, the bullshit thing is good to have.
Yes.
It's like the brake and the accelerator. You need those two, right? And anyway, so she gets in the car, and I had my hands in my pocket, and it was a cold day, and I remember the door was open. I'm saying, all right, you two, I'll see you later. And my hands, for whatever reason, just got like activated like crazy. I could just see them just vibrating like crazy. So yeah, was it psychosomatic, what she said? I don't think so. In retrospect, I don't think so. I know that they were in my pocket and they went crazy hot. So perhaps I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure, but yeah.
So this was more of a natural ability that you had. So you didn't actually, did you take like Reiki 1 or Reiki 2 or anything like that? Or is it just that?
A mate of mine, she gave me Reiki 1, Reiki 2. And, but I also, there was another guy, Jason, that I work with, and I could hold energy extremely, extremely well for whatever reason. And so what would happen there, he'd sit in front of me, and he would be in the it's like one big room downstairs. So I would just bring him the energy. And what would happen is he would go all over the universe, all over the place. Like, I mean, everywhere. And he'd be talking to predominantly life forces that are not human in a nice way, of course.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
of
in a
course.
nice way. Yeah. And they would just give me gifts. So he'd be sitting in front of me and he just, and this went on for about, I'm guessing 7.5, 8 months. And, you know, he'd be channeling Actorians, Pleiadians, Styrians, all this type of stuff. And they would just be giving me all of these gifts. And they just
Wow.
take this, shielding and all this. And it just went on for a while. And like I said, I went to Carolyn's class. I had probably 3, maybe 4 teachers. And Michael, I was a dud. Like, I'll tell you right now, the money I spent and the time I spent in these classes, and I'm with very talented people like yourself, right? And I'm going, okay, so if there's like Superman there and you got Spider-Man there and you got Captain America there, I'm going, what am I like? I don't get it. I just, you know, because everyone had a certain groove to them. I couldn't work out my groove, and only to find out that I had to go to me to find my groove, because it's very easy to calibrate yourself with anyone else, because that's what you do when you're younger and you're learning. You know, you're cutting your teeth. Wouldn't you agree? That's what I found.
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah, I used to compare myself to everybody. Like I always thought I was the shittiest psychic in the world. I just, you know, even in class, you know, I was getting stuff and I was like, man, I'm getting pretty good. And then you kind of, you know, that self-doubt kind of gets in, and then it's like, okay, am I full of shit? Am I just trying to make shit up just to kind of make myself feel important? Am I actually doing the work? Or like, is it coming through? Like, that was one of the things I struggled with channeling. One of the things I really struggled. I remember when the first time it came through, and it was funny as hell because it was a new experience. And it was like literally somebody in my head talking to me like we were having a conversation. It was so loud, so profound. And it was the funniest entity or person or whoever it was in my head. I was laughing. And I remember Carolyn giving me shit for being so giggly.
Yes,
like,
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah,
I do
she's like,
remember
you gotta be serious, Mike. And I couldn't stop laughing because all I could hear was this guy's voice in my head, like so loud. And then later on, I always just thought, maybe am I making this shit up? Like, am I just? And that's where that self-doubt. And I think a lot of people who do this type of work start out with that self-doubt, like, am I going crazy? Or is it just me just wanting it so badly that I wanted to belong? I wanted to feel unique or special. Or maybe as I'm just trying to make this up just to be a people pleaser. And hey, look at me, I'm a channeler, and look at my stuff. But yeah, I struggled with that for so long. I haven't channeled in years.
Yeah.
Years. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, like for us back then, and even now, I would say that when you're looking at, like, you had your Wayne Dyers and you had all of these, you know, Greg Bradens and all these people. For me and you, these people were rock stars.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not of any surprise when you think about it to think, oh, I want to be a rock star too. So your ego can play tricks on you. And I remember you laughing, and I'm going, because it was kind of I wouldn't say it was a well-lit room, but it was a busy class actually. And I remember looking over, and I remember, never forget, you were to the right, and you're laughing your head off, and you had a big little smile on you. And I'm going, okay. And then, and I remember Carolyn saying, we need the message, not the emotion. Because I remember there was another lady and she was crying. If you're trying to come up with a message, and she's saying, you got to cut out the emotions. You just got to give us the message for the room. So maybe she was doing that, but I was digging it. I thought it was funny. And then I don't know if you remember Gilbert. Tell us about Gilbert.
Jesus. That was the guy. Oh my God. It's been so, you know, it's so funny how you remember that, because when we were having this, we had a little discussion prior to doing the recording, and you talked about, do you remember Gilbert? And Gilbert was the first person or entity that I actually channeled. And that was a person that was laughing in my head because it was a really strong Southern accent. No. And it was so distinct. And it's so funny and colorful. And he had a joy for life, and he didn't give a shit. And I think that's what it was. And that's kind of like me. Now I really don't give a shit. But back then I was a little more kind of like a little high strung and really wound up tight. But it was just so funny when he came through, and it just like, hey, y'all. And he was making fun of everybody in the class. And like, I forget, he was making something up. I don't know who it was in the class, but there was this blonde girl. I can't remember her name, but he really liked her, and he was saying stuff in my head. I was like, oh God. And that's when I started laughing. And I thought this,
Yeah.
I said, dude, you
That's
can't
not
be talking.
that's not good. This isn't the 1930s, really.
Yeah. But I think it was even earlier. I think he was 1800s. From
Oh,
what
really?
yeah.
He was a he was a hunter, wasn't he? He was a hunter.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember that.
Which I think, which, because that's what I am. I'm a hunter too, as well. I think that's why he was drawn to me, because we had a very similar background, and we could talk about it a little bit, and it was easy for him to kind of go through. But yeah, that was a wild experience. And
I remember. Sorry, I remember Edgar Casey coming through you too.
Yeah. See, that one, I'm really not sure about. To be honest with you, okay. I really don't. Like, that was my big doubt, because like, honestly, I was really struggling at the time, and I had a friend, an acquaintance at the time, who actually was doing all this channeling stuff. And it was like, he was like, we talked about rock star. I had him like a rock star level, like some of the freaky stuff. Like you just hear about this, but you never experience. And, he would show up in the sessions, and other people would mention, who's this older guy with the glasses? But I thought, again, it was just like me making this shit up. Me just wanted to connect with this sort of energy. And to be honest, I really never had any confirmation of it. So I don't know if it was just me, to be honest with you, making it up, or it actually was. And there was always that doubt in there.
Well, I remember Gina at the time saying she was quite convinced it was him. I mean, because I don't have the sight thing, but she tuned into him, and she says, yeah, like that was Edgar Casey. And at the time I go, who's Edgar Casey? I didn't know. I had no idea who it was, right?
Yeah. At the time, I really didn't know too much about him prior to that too, as well. I actually had a conversation with this on another podcast about my experience with Edgar Casey. Yeah. And I always call Edgar now, like, he's the OG of spirituality. So if you don't know who Edgar Casey is, look him up. And if you're on this path, like, he's definitely a person you want to kind of, follow and see his stuff. But yeah, it was really strange. It was really, really strange. And that's one of the things I just never really got my head around was I actually doing this? Was I really connecting with him? And and then I forget, I had an incident with somebody about my channeling, and I just shut it down. I just totally shut it down. Like, I just said, you know what? I think a lot of people who've gone through an experience where they had self-doubt, and then somebody, launches an attack on you for something that you were saying, which was, at the time, I realized that it was, maybe I stepped a little bit out of boundaries, but for the most part, it was out of love and kindness. And it wasn't anything like detrimental or dangerous or anything that would cause them harm.
You're not like that. No.
Yeah. So it really helped. That shut me down. That shut me down even psychically too, as well. I just shut it down, because it's like, if I'm going to be doing this type of work, why would, and being attacked by people, why the fuck would I want to do it?
But you know what, Mike, I find it interesting, because I was thinking of some points to talk about. And one of I find the interesting points to doing this for so long, as you have yourself, so many egos. Oh my God. Am I wrong or what?
Oh, no, you're not wrong.
Oh my God. Oh. It's almost like some of these people, so-called spiritual people, would screw you. Oh my God. It's like a mask that they put on because it's an easy mask to wear if you're that type of person, where if you want to manipulate someone, you put a spiritual mask on, and people will just go, oh, I've seen it too many times. Yeah. And I'm very often disappointed, unfortunately, when I see that. I just write them off, because I just can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that.
Oh my God, John, like, so true. It never ceases to amaze me what level of people are out there, and they'll use the guise of spirituality to, like, basically a mask to, it's like covering up evil. And, I say that with a grain of salt, because inherently not everybody's evil. It's just that they're so disconnected from source that they just come off. But I think we all been through that. I think a lot of people early on in their spiritual development have done that. Yeah. And I have so many people now that I'm kind of like that, that we've been around. We kind of seen it all. We've kind of been around. So we have a lot more knowledge, and our bullshit filter is a little bit stronger. And I have like a lot of young people that are following this channel. and they've reached out to me, and they're kind of like, "Hey, what do you think about this person?" And I click onto their Instagram account, and I'm going, what? I mean, literally, what the fuck?
Really?
Yeah, it's scary. It's really scary. Like, and in trying to evolve yourself, and so many people can attach yourself to something so badly that they want to believe anything.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I think if the person isn't developed as an individual, and I've seen this, like I said, I don't teach, but there was someone I did some work with, and his foundation as who he wasn't the best version of who he was, and that's fine, you know. But I would say that I assisted him in a certain capacity because he needed it, and that's fine. But just not mature enough. It's like giving a child a single malt. Like, why would you do that? It was a complete waste. You know, it's like, why would you do that? And it's just, and when I say that jokingly, but it's got to be a match. It's got to be, you know, it's got to come up to that level where it's like, okay, it makes sense. But if it's off, then it's just off for now.
Yeah,
it's just off for now.
Yeah, because I mean, you do a lot of work with a lot of things, and one of the things that I'm so happy for you is that your healing business is so evolved, and you've helped so many people. And I was kind of doing looking back at your website and stuff like that, and I was just like, "Oh, damn, dude, you're really just working with a lot of people, helping a lot of people." And I was like, damn, I mean, I was so happy for you. I was so good to happen to a nicer guy. And I was really curious though, because we're talking about, spiritual bypass and things like that, and people and you help a lot of people with mental illness, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And maybe if you can talk about a little bit about that, because I think that's, a key topic that we can maybe talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So for myself, like I said, when I went to these classes, I really was a dud. Like, I was like, I don't belong here, but I know by design of the universe, I'm meant to be here, but in what capacity? Perhaps as an observer, maybe on the unseen. There's different frequencies and vibrations that I'm connecting to. But on a human level, I just couldn't get it right in the room, or whoever the teacher was. And just doing work on so many people and not really being in the community, not really. I mean, when you're first learning, you're like a sponge, and then it's like what George Harrison says. It's like, if you don't go within, you'll go without, and it's true, because at the end of the day, you got to come back to here. It's all about here, right? And when you sort out this, and what I've noticed is when I work on someone, I would say 95% of the time, when I clean them up, their universe outside just changes. So when you've got 50 trillion cells in the body that rely on you as Mother Earth with your thoughts and your actions, when you clean, or when you deprogram and reprogram all the cells in the body, meridian lines, and just a whole gamut of stuff, when I work, I just try and do as much as I can to save the time frame that we're in. And so anyway, getting back to the whole mental stability and all this stuff, it's like, the way I describe it is it's like a fan. So your eyes, when you look at a fan and it's unplugged, you see a solid object with blades on it. Then when you plug the fan in, you have electricity. Then when you put it on high, the fan disappears, but we know there's a fan there, but it's oscillating, vibrating, moving so fast that your eyes cannot pick up the fan. Now, this is the way I describe it to people that I work on when I'm pulling emotional attachments off people, or emotional parasites, if you want to call it. And these are essentially just human emotions are food. That's what they are. So, and not only, so what will happen is that they'll often come in and attach themselves to a human in trauma. So something will happen, either sexual, physical, mental abuse will happen, and then the energy's down, their emotions are down, and then they'll come in and they will embed themselves in your energy. And sometimes they're outside, and sometimes they're inside the body. And believe me, they do exist. They do exist. Not only do they feed off low vibrational energy, but they will influence the human to do stuff. So
Yeah, because they're
imagine,
feeding off that particular energy. So they'll stimulate the fear centers from what I hear. And again, this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because
mm,
a little out of my wheelhouse, but they will, they'll feed off that, but they're also trigger like their response, that they had a traumatic response. They'll trigger the memory to create that environment, to create that energy so that they can feed off that. And then it's just like this weird cycle of pattern that you kind of feel good one day, and then all of a sudden something triggers you, and then wham, you're back in that whole cycle again.
yeah, and because a lot of us live in the past, especially with trauma, right? Because that's the traumas in the past. So it doesn't know when you're constantly feeding it. But often I've pulled, maybe most I've pulled up is maybe six energies of people, parasites, in
Wow.
one session. Yeah,
That's
in one
crazy.
session. And it's interesting because sometimes on a cellular level, they'll go, "Oh my God, John." The next day, they might contact me and say, "I feel like I've just been at the gym," but they're watching the whole thing. They're watching it, and you can actually see them move.
Oh, wow.
I've actually seen them move under the skin. The best way I can describe it really is on the Matrix, the movie, when you see that, I think it's like one of the agents, and you see this thing going around his face or whatever, and it's kind of, I've seen it on a physical level move, and they will find them and they'll move them, and like I said, they will also influence. So imagine if you think, I don't want to eat that tub of ice cream, and they will make you eat that tub of ice cream, and then you'll feel bad about eating that tub of ice cream, and then they feed off those emotions.
Yeah.
So they'll trigger people to do stuff in a room, in social, just everything.
Yeah.
Very intelligent, very intelligent.
Yeah, I when I first heard about this, about attachments and things like that, my logical brain going, yeah, I don't know, sounds kind of fucking horse shit. But
Yeah.
then when you actually go to a healer like yourself, and you kind of feel it, it's almost like, if anybody's ever had a leech on them, if you've been in the water and they pull a leech off your skin, and you see that kind of a sucking attachment, and it's literally like that, but in an energetic field, and you could feel that release. Because I went to I have this chiropractor friend that does amazing work, and does energy work, and he was pulling stuff off me, and I was like, he was telling me this stuff, and I was like, what? But then I could actually feel and actually see what it was that was feeding off me, and I was like going, all right, this is a whole new other crazy for me. Like, this is really amazing. But it's amazing when you have that done, like how much more liberate, and it gives you a better sense of your own free will to make better decisions. It kind of just gives you that little nudge, that little kind of little extra to kind of get you going. It's not going to end all to be all. You still got to do some work and heal yourself, but that, pulling those things off certainly loosens the load a bit.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you keep this in mind and you say, okay, so if you say, when you let fear step in to your mind, which your mind, your body, it's the same thing. When you let fear step in, you are no longer sovereign. You're no longer sovereign. When you let fear of not being a good husband, fear of not being a good mother, fear of this, that, another thing, you are no longer sovereign. Then what happens is then your vibration goes down and these things come in, right? And you say, well, how is it that, so you pull these energies off people and they feel great. And like I said, when you clean everything up, then the outside universe starts to change. It's like, wow, things start to happen. Very, very true. Very true. But I say to them now, look, I says, you have to be careful with the programs that you're carrying, the old programs. So you've got to educate yourself as not slipping into those old programs, because if you do, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah. Just go back to where you were.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. That's so crazy. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like, what is like if you had to give me like a case study, what was the craziest thing that you or craziest either disease or attachment?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I've done exorcisms. That's actually a form of mild exorcism, is because you're taking energy out of the body, really.
Yeah.
But I've done exorcisms here. I had a couple of, I also do operations as well. I don't know how I do them, but I do them. And they're watching the whole operation. And sometimes let's say there's myself and the individual that I'm working on, and there'll be energies in the room and they'll witness the whole operation. I did one that really stuck out. I just I loved it. And I replaced a heart valve, a valve and a heart.
What?
It was incredible. Yes. Mike, you know me, I wouldn't be lying.
No, I'm just
yeah.
like, I know you would
Yeah.
lie. No, I'm
No,
just like, I'm like,
absolutely. Yeah.
I love the shit. So, you know,
Yeah.
so now like, okay, so this is like, okay, this is like, I mean, I remember again, it's been so while since, you know, I had a session with you, and I remember the first time it was really powerful, but it's now you're having people come in and they're like, it's almost like a surgical gallery. Like you're energetic,
Mhm.
you're, we'll call them your peeps, right? Could be the angels, could be extra guides that come
Sure.
in, and basically they're all kind of watching you, and they're basically now, are they overlaying their energy or on your hands? Because I know
Sometimes.
sometimes that you'll see them like
Yeah.
it's like hands over your hands, and then
Yeah.
you can actually see them going into the body and actually kind of moving things around.
Sometimes it will be like that, but sometimes it will be like, let's say if it's a loved one, sometimes they'll work through me. I'll give them permission to work through me and heal the heart sometimes and balance the heart chakra. Sometimes, like I said, it's a physical operation. One time there was a lady, this wasn't too long ago actually, and she said, do you mind if I bring my daughter? The daughter was probably 24, 28, I don't know. So she sat down and I could see her picking up on the energy. And she was really interested in the work that I do. So I brought her along, and it was really beautiful because the mother's lying down and I'm working on the daughter. So I thought, wouldn't this be beautiful? Because I find that I don't like to limit myself and I like to be creative. So I got her up and I put my hand on her back and I let my energy run through, and she healed the mother. And she healed yeah. So here she is standing in my office, and the energy is going right through it, and she's experiencing everything. She's connecting to her mother, and the mother's connecting to her on a soul level, which is so beautiful. Like,
Oh my God, yeah.
so touching. And then after that one, I'm like, I got to do more of these. This is great. So, and I did, and it was great. So I love that. And actually, October the 8th, I did work on someone, and I think everyone has their own position on the vaccine, and that's fine. I have my position, but I pulled out the vaccine from a right ovary on a lady on October the 8th.
Wow.
So that was stopping as she came to me for fertility issues. So that was pretty incredible. So I'm definitely going to be building on that for sure.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept.
Mhm.
I know
Yeah.
actually I had my energy guy basically I mean, I ended up getting the vaccine,
Mhm.
and I was trying to do my part as a citizen Canadian, and
Yeah.
but he rebalanced me from the whole thing. Like he makes sure that my body was attuned with it, because that thing is just, it's nutty
Not
as
good. Yes.
hell. But I
Yeah.
ain't gonna go too much of that, because I know YouTube, if we start talking about this,
Yes,
you're gonna basically, you're gonna cut off my show.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time. And then I basically have no viewers again. But that's a whole nother program we can talk into. But yeah, it's, you know, so fascinating, because I also saw that you do it with, you know, PCOS
Yeah.
and fibroids and things like that with women, which is, you know, which is surprising. Now, I've known so many women now over the last year and a half that had had PCOS, or they had really bad fibroids. Like I was just like, what's going on with, and even with my close friends, my close girlfriends have been having problems with that too as well. Have you noticing a more of a trend of this, or just, you just think it's just something in the air, or what's going on?
I would say that because I see all different things. I like a lot of my work is working with anxiety and depression, borderline personality disorder, and of course I do remote work too. I prefer to do work in the office because it's a little bit more interesting for me. But a lot of fertility issues, but it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's been like that. I would assume that with stress, and then if you're planning to have a family now, you might be thinking, well, let's wait another year, or let's, you know. So there's a whole generation that's it's going to be a scoop, I would say. But yeah, no, it's been like that for quite some time, energetically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work on that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've noticed that you're advertising that in your website, and had a lot of the ladies talk about that too as well. But you find you're dealing more mental stuff, like, you know, the anxiety, depression, things like that.
Well, you know what, Mike? I think most people probably most people have a certain amount of depression in them anyway, but they don't recognize it because it's kind of like this. We're all beautiful salmon and we have a mission.
Sorry, I miss your analogies. You have the best in you have almost every analogy to every situation. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's okay.
I love them. I absolutely love it. I miss them. I miss those analogies. Sorry. So we're salmon. So yeah, go ahead. Yes.
All right. So the thing is with salmon, we have a calling, right?
Yeah.
And we're beautiful, and we change our physical. We change. We have a calling. We go upstream. We go against the current, right? That's our nature. And I think society has convinced us that we're carp. Okay. And one thing about carp, they're a bottom feeder. You know this, being a fisherman, and we get used to it, and we believe that we're carp. We just think we really don't have that much value, and then it's synonymous with everyone. And we look around and we say, well, we're not really that important. We don't do this and we don't have that. We're not special, and so on and so forth. When we really, really are. So I believe that society, whether it be media, food, and so we're getting it from all angles, EMF frequencies. And I think a lot of people are depressed. And they don't even know it. And it's on different levels, of course, but to be completely free with, you got social media, it's really difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult. You're getting it from all angles, right?
Yeah. It's so hyper focused. Like you just see so much of it so quickly. And like, I just remember as a kid, like, we're both 70s, like we grew up in the 70s, right? So we didn't have exposed to that. So like just kind of looking back and you're seeing things now, it's just, and I didn't have social media until was the last year, to be honest with you. I despised it. But if you're coming out of the psychic closet and you're going to go full steam, you kind of have to kind of put yourself out there on social media. So, but yeah, I fully understand that. And the depression and anxiety now over the last 2 years has been really high. I've had so many people tell me that, God, like what's going on? Like what's happening? People want to know what the future is. Like people are so freaked out about this coming year and what's going to happen. And like the media is I can't even watch it anymore. It's so bad. I just can't, I just don't bother watching it.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, like, I mean, in your transformation, let's say within the last, let's say the last 2 years, doing readings and stuff like that. How did, I'll just use my analogy. It feels so good to be doing this work. And I would assume that the work that you're doing, it just fills your heart. It must just, when you see transformations and when you see, because it is a healing when you're doing a reading for someone in so many different ways. Like for you, I mean, how has it been opening up to all of this stuff?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it's been a little bit of struggle. It hasn't been too much because it's been a long progression. Like, I mean, like since 2003, 2004, when things started moving, stuff like that, but it was just very slow. I just was very afraid of not owning it and really being authentic with it. And I even struggle with it too, as well. Like this show has really helped me. And it's funny because I spoke for a living. Like I used to sell on television around the world. And I thought to myself, I can speak, but when I was speaking my truth and talking about things like this, the woo-woo, angels and psychics, and we're talking about health issues, things that were always been a deep part of me, I really struggled with it. Like I sound like an idiot half the time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I can't speak about it. But it was just part of me just being nervous and becoming fully aware of it. But as I do every show, as I, open up more, I meet like-minded people. We're building a community. It's been really amazing. I think the biggest thing is when I get a random DM from on my Instagram for somebody reaching out in like Colorado or something and going, oh my God, I just found your show and thank you. Like this particular guest helped me. And that's basically why I have this show is to help people who are on this journey and to really, find the right people. So when somebody watches this show, they may reach out to you for services. but it's maybe just more than that, their experience is very similar to ours, and it'll help them on their journey. So they may just learn something. So it's always that inspiration, but it feels a freaking lot better. I'm still not 100%. Like, there are certain people I don't always say, hey, by the way, I'm a psychic medium. I kind of gauge gauge the audience, but for the most part, yeah, it's been good. It's been really, really good. Like, I mean, I'm super grateful. I know my readings have changed, like how I do my readings have changed, what I'm more focused on the reading. But yeah, it was a long time coming. So yeah, it's so worth it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Good for you. All right, they get a bit of water here. Dry lips.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we've been yapping for a while here. I was looking at my timer here, and I was like, man, I think we've been on a little bit longer than this. But that's a great thing about doing this podcast. You can just go as long as you want.
No time restraints. It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's really no, and you can really have conversations.
Yeah.
And
I tell you what I do remember.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Okay, look, all right. Good thing I can edit this. I think I can edit this.
And then I was getting to know you. Like, oh, he's a nice fella. And then we did the pod. You remember the pod?
Yeah, let's not name any names.
No,
we'll talk.
Yeah,
okay, we'll
course,
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
And then you I remember we were there, and then you said to me, you'd be in the car, and this is common for a lot of people who are sensitive, and you say, John, and I go, what? Don't forget, I was a dud for a good while, right? And I said, what, Mike? And you'd say, I was getting downloads. I was just driving. I was like, and I was getting all these downloads. And I'm like, what? And that was my first introduction. Like, what are you talking about? Downloads? Like, what is this download? And you'd be getting information or data in some capacity. But you'd be driving along, or you'd be walking, and you'd just be getting a hit of information. Do you remember those days when that happened?
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, it was very, very painful, to be honest with you.
Was it really?
In a way it was. I mean, it was, and again, it was not like physically painful, but just emotionally and like energetically draining.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was picking up so much information. It's almost like, let me use an analogy. It's like when you have the radio on, and then somebody else turns the radio on, and somebody turns on, then somebody else turns the radio on, and then you have 6 radios playing. So, and they all playing music that you really don't like, and it's affecting you on various levels, right? So I was just getting all this. So it was just like, I was open up, and I was way too open. That was the problem. I was way too open, and I was like a psychic sponge. I was soaking up all the yummy and the fucking awful shit that everything around me. So, and that's what really, it really sent me down a rabbit hole really hard, because I never knew why I was feeling shitty all the time. And I'm naturally kind of a lighthearted guy and a fun guy. But for the longest time, I just was feeling dark and darkness all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, there's something fucking wrong with me. And it took me a while to, and seeing a few people, to kind of figure it all out. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I used to have a job that I went to, and I was wondering, I was always like, why are these people treating, like, I would take my dogs for a walk in the forest, right? So I had 3 dogs at the time, and I'm walking in the forest, and I would think to myself, why are humans, like, why are they treating each other so bad? Don't they know how it feels? I'd be trying to solve their problems, which you couldn't, but you're mulling in your head thinking, like, why would you say that? Why would you do that? And you have this then you get the victim mentality, right? And you're going, this is just horrible. And what's wrong with these people? And then I'd be walking through, I'll never forget this. And then all of a sudden I just felt a lightness. I went, what happened there? So, and I'm walking through the forest again. Then the mantra comes in of, what's wrong with these people at work, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, a waft of just pure joy. I went, what is this? Then to realize, okay, that's when I found out I was an empath. It was my 3 dogs running past my legs, because I'm walking through the forest, and they're just so happy and joyful. And they're running past my legs, and I'm picking up on their energy. And I'm like, I get it. Only that they ran through, because, there's like a path that they're running past in the forest. And I clicked just like that. I went, okay, I get it now. And that was a real eye opener for me, much like what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, it's so amazing when you finally have that liberation of knowledge and understanding of what's kind of going on. And
Mhm.
that's what really helped me out. Is like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, because I for the longest time I thought it was just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
I thought I had to go. I thought I literally was going to have to go on meds. I was drinking like crazy just to kind of coma, and I was also doing a little bit of drugs too as well to just to kind of just to numb myself out from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was trying to do everything just to numb it and to quiet it down, and it was just getting louder and louder, and yeah. And then finally, just I just had to get work through it. But yeah, I understand that joy. Like once you find that joy, that's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have you still have the three? No, you have two dogs, right?
I've got 2 dogs now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the little one? What's that little? Is you still have that crazy one, the little crazy dog?
Oh, they're both crazy. They're like a cat on crack. The two of them. They're bouncing off each other. So I've got got Fletcher. It's probably the one, the
That's
little
what.
pug.
And then Storm,
Yes.
right?
No, Storm's gone. He left
Storm.
the planet. But we
Oh,
have another little black one, and
uh-huh.
he's just perfect. What can I tell you? These little guys are just everyone should have one.
Yeah.
It's just like that,
Well,
right?
maybe not your dogs. They're crazy as hell.
Okay, maybe not them. Back crazy, right? But no,
Oh,
they're doing okay.
yeah. I remember going for walks with you and your dogs, and they would just go.
Oh, they're nuts.
Yeah, they were like literally insane. But I mean, there was such a joy in it. Like it was just like it was like you said, they were just like having a bunch of 3-year-olds on sugar, and
Yeah.
they would just go, and they were just and the thing is, they wouldn't stop when you got them home. That was a crazy thing too. They just
Oh no.
and I was like, thank God you got that bigger house now.
Yeah.
Back
Oh,
and the big backyard now.
yes, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. Oh my God. Those dogs. Oh, Fletcher. I was trying to figure out, okay, Fletcher. How did
And
you
the
get
other one, the other one's Finnegan.
Finnegan?
Fletcher and Finnegan. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
What type of dog is Finnegan?
Finnegan was actually a rescue. He's from Israel, actually. He's a rescue from a place called Dogtails. I think there's like a TV show or something on this rescue. They're from King City,
Okay.
just near Newmarket. And yeah, he came from Israel, over a plane in Israel, a rescue, and he's just a happy little guy. From when he wakes up and when he goes to sleep, his tails just doesn't stop wagging.
Oh, I mean, he's living in your house.
Oh,
You guys are like dog people. Like it's like the dog reincarnated into like heaven, into your place.
yeah, he's
And
like a dog cat.
I know your wife and how she spoils your dogs. So no
Oh
wonder
yeah.
the dog's wagging his tail.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Oh yeah.
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 Oh my gosh.
Kings and queens.
Kings and queens. Yeah. Well, John, that being said, we're almost out of time, brother.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you for just, well, it's great connecting with you.
Yeah.
And, we'll do it physically.
Yes, most definitely. Now that the restrictions are, lifted,
Yeah.
and things are better. Yeah, 100% on that. And I know the wife was inviting me for drinks already, so I think I may definitely go on that. But I always said to her, because your wife is such an amazing baker, I said, if she's got that beautiful bread that she makes, yeah, that's like crack cocaine to me. That's crazy. That's so amazing. But John, that being said, if people are looking to find your services and they're listening to this podcast, where can they find you, John?
So you can just go to awakeninghealthwithin.com.
Okay.
So you'll find there, and you'll find lots of videos of the work that I've done. And it's been a building process. Success rate, we're looking realistically 85-90% success rate. So I've just been very fortunate with the access that I have. So that's it.
Yeah,
Whether
you're amazing.
Physical, mental,
Yeah. So now are you on Instagram and Facebook too as well?
That's my Achilles heel. I'm useless with that stuff. I probably am, but I don't know it. I just, I'm useless with that stuff, Mike. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, the best way is to either send me an email or text me, phone me. That's the preferred way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely have all John's information in the description below. So if you're watching this video, just scroll down a little bit lower and you'll see all the information at the bottom. And if you're listening to on Spotify or Apple, I'll have that in the description too as well. So just look in the description below and have all John's information. So if you want to reach out to John and have an amazing session, and I know he does remote healing. So doesn't matter where you are in the world, he'll be able to, locate you and help you out there too as well. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to work on my speech. That being said, John.
Yes.
I'm just going to close off the podcast here. So this has been the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.
Thanks, Mike.